From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell, back in London after a really lovely week's holiday in France. Managed to do paddle boarding and kayaking and hiking, all the things I love doing. Now preparing for the Cricket Writers Club lunch. So our media awards will get presented next week. So quite a lot of work to do around that. The domestic season has now finished. And of course, the international season finished just last weekend at Lord's with the women's match. That was a quiet one, wasn't it?
Yes, we might come to that discussion, but it's Jim Maxwell for the ABC here in Sydney. And just as well, they're not starting the domestic competitions in Sydney because, yes, it's raining again. This must be the wettest year Sydney's ever had. And it's threatening the beginning of round 2 of our Premier Cricket competition again. But at least it's sunny in other places where the various competitions are underway. And that's a good sign. So hopefully we'll get a break in the weather.
Well, I feel for you, Jim. Hello, this is Charu Sharma for All India Radio. I'm in Ahmedabad in Gujarat, where it's nice and warm and dry. I'm here for the 36th edition of the National Games, which is sort of like the Indian Olympics, the opening ceremony today. Cricket-wise, of course, there was a fair amount of criticism for, let's not talk about what happened at Lord's a short while back, because I'm sure we will soon, but for the Indian medium pacers in the men's department. But 9 for 5, they had South Africa on the mat, and I suppose the critics have moved away from criticizing the Indian medium pacers for a while, because they seem to have come to the party. But they moved to some other sphere, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon.
Well, it's good to see you, Jim and Charu, and we will talk about that final one-day international between England and India. But first on Stumped this week, well, it seems everything touched by the Australian women's team turns to gold. Earlier this year, the Aussies claimed the first Commonwealth Games gold medal in T20 cricket after beating India by 9 runs in a tense final at Edgbaston. Former Australian spinner Shelley Nitschke was the coach in an interim capacity then, helping to guide the team to victory. She's now been rewarded with the head coach role on a permanent basis. Nitschke played over 100 matches for Australia across all formats and had been interim coach since May when Matthew Mott departed for England men. And we've got Shelley with us now on the programme. Shelley, welcome to Stumped and congratulations on the job. You must have felt fairly confident about getting it, did you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, look, I think I was obviously in a reasonable position after being in the interim role for a few months when we went through had the recruitment process. So, but no, it was just nice to, I guess, find out that I'd been given the role on a permanent basis, and just looking forward to, I guess, getting stuck in.
Hi, Shelley. Jim Maxwell in Sydney. Nice to be talking to you. Hopefully the sun is shining up there where you are. But just looking back during Matthew Mott's 7-year tenure as the coach, the Australian team won 2 T20 World Cup titles, 3 Ashes series, and 2 women's championships before lifting the coveted World Cup in April this year. How do you manage to keep goal setting when Australia keep winning everything there is to win, and with a leg in the air, as it were, at the moment?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. I think it's about sort of making sure that we're staying pretty grounded, keep resetting, and keep setting ourselves some challenges and keep evolving with the game. You know, we've obviously lost Ray Change more recently to retirement, which is a big loss for us. So that presents a challenge and an opportunity for someone to step up. And we also know that teams are coming for us. You know, India pushed us way too hard, more than we'd like in the Commonwealth Games. So we certainly know that those teams are coming for us and closing the gap. So I think it's just about finding ways to stay motivated, keep evolving, and really finding that desire to stay on top and stay ahead of the game.
Jerry, hi, Charu Sharma from India for All India Radio. Congratulations on this magnificent journey, which, if we track it back a bit, the 2010 World Cup for you in the T20 for Australia, and then moving on to South Australia as a coach, and then, of course, the assistant's role under Matthew Morton till 2018, and later, of course, the Perth Scorchers as well. All this experience over so many years, has it been the key in helping you succeed with the Australian team?
Look, I think all your experience adds up. I think, probably, yes, it certainly has helped me, but I also think that my experience and life experience away from the game of cricket helps me quite a bit too, in being able to, I guess, relate to players and relate to people. So I think it's not just a sum of the last sort of 10 years of cricket experience, as everything that I'd done before outside of that has probably put me in a position where I'm able to, I guess, relate to different people. So it certainly has helped me in a cricket sense and in, tactics and conditions and things like that. But I think that a more holistic view is taking my life experience and knowing that that's contributed to where I am as well.
Is there anything particular when you talk about life experience that you think helps you in that regard?
To be honest, I think part of it is, when I played, we were still juggling work and life and that with our cricket career. And to be honest, I think that teaches you a lot of lessons, and you have to sort of, find a way to make things work. And at the time, it's tough, and you're tired. It's a juggling act, and it's this and that. But at the end of the day, I think it puts you in a pretty. You learn a lot along the way as well, and I think that sort of gives you a really good perspective on where the game sits within the bigger scheme of things. And I think it helps to keep yourself and others around you grounded, which I think is a big part of why the team's been successful, is that culture as well.
You mentioned Rachel Haynes and her retirement, the gap that she leaves. So just a couple of questions around personnel. First of all, I guess Ellyse Perry's prospects of forcing her way back into the T20 side, and then also how Meg Lanning is doing at the moment, because she's been taking an indefinite leave from the game.
Yeah, like I said before, Rach leaves a big hole for us. I think both on and off the field. For those that know Rach really well, know how much of an incredible leader she is. I think her performances speak for themselves. We can all see what she does on the field, but it's what she does off the field, and the leadership around the group is really difficult. So that leaves a hole in our team, and whether that's Pez that comes into that T20 team or someone else, I think there's a real opportunity there. We've got a lot of domestic cricket with the WBBL and opportunities for someone to stick their hand up. So there's definitely opportunity, whether it's Pez or someone else. But I'd be excited to see moving forward where that finishes up and who really takes that next step. And look, as for Meg, I think it's just come out recently that she's not playing in the WBBL, so we're sort of giving her space at the moment, and letting her reassess things and sort of see where she's at. We sort of don't have any further indication on that at the moment, but I think it's really important for her that we give her that space, and hopefully she comes back to the game in her own time.
Yeah, quite. I imagine you would hope that she would be able to lead the team at the T20 World Cup, but the priority is Meg herself and what she wants to do.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think, everyone's being really respectful of that, which has been great, which is exactly what she needs. She's been a fantastic leader and player for us over, a long period of time, and been involved at this level since she was a teenager. So, I think she sort of just has reached a point where she just needs to take a bit of a break, and I think everyone's really empathetic with that and can fully understand sort of why. So, I guess we all want to see Meg back playing the game, but I think it's just about her and what makes her happy.
As Australia's head coach, Shelley Nitschke. Now then, to the story that grabbed the headlines and immediately sparked a lively debate on social media. It was at Lord's barely a week ago when the third one-day international between England and India's women became remembered for what happened right at the end. I was there. I was watching from the stands at the climax of what had been a low-scoring game, and it was just bubbling up. England were 9 down, looking down and out, but England's Charlie Dean, their number 10, was closing in on a half-century and threatening to win the game in an unlikely final wicket stand. Things had got tense. She got to within 17 runs of an England win with 1 wicket left, when the bowler, Deepti Sharma, ran her out by stopping in her delivery stride and whipping off the bails at the non-striker's end before she bowled the ball. Dean was advancing out of her crease as the bowler was about to bowl, what's known as backing up, and so Dean was out. Now, the laws allow it. it's still seen as a controversial dismissal, though, and still commonly called a mankad, named after the Indian batter Vinu Mankad, who was the first player to effect that type of run-out in a test match in 1947. So it is perfectly within the laws of the game, but a lot of people don't believe it's in the spirit of the game, and few issues in cricket divide fans and players so vehemently. So, Jim, Charu, where do you stand on this? Charu, you go first because you've seen all the reaction in India.
All right, let's roll up our sleeves on this one. For starters, I would like to very quickly, on behalf of the Mankad family, object to that term, because I think the family on many occasions has said, please, let's not vilify the family. And
We'll
I believe
call
there
it a run
are,
out. Let's do that.
Yeah, well, non-strikers run out. And I believe there were at least a couple of incidences before Mankad in cricket where the non-striker was run out by the bowler. So it's just one of those unfortunate things where it's named after somebody whose family is certainly not very happy at all. So I'm going to avoid that term. Even recently, the ICC has cemented this law, and they've done it, according to me, for a reason, because people were taking very unfair advantage and not staying within the spirit of the game by backing up too much. And even young Charlie Dean, I mean, I feel for her with the tears and everything else, but she was walking in such an unaware fashion. She just kept walking on without
72
without
times.
Yes,
did you say 72 times in her innings?
Correct. And even on the one that she was run out, I mean, she was completely unaware of what the bowler was doing, where the ball was. I mean, she was just walking with no look towards the bowler. So there is some element of lack of innocence there, because one is taking a lot of advantage of backing up. And in cricket now, we hear about the parlance that throw to the danger end, which is the non-striker's end, because the non-striker is going to make the crease anyway, because he or she has taken 4 or 5 steps and therefore has the advantage. Now, all of that was seen by the ICC, and that's why the ICC kind of said, all right, let's clamp down on this, because there's too much advantage being taken by one batsman compared to the other. I'm of the old school. Obviously, I'd like to see a match finish in a more regulation fashion, but I cannot hold it against Deepti at all. I think the skipper had a hand in it too, by an indication that, listen, we're all a little fed up of this, because we can't have somebody take so much advantage over so long a period in a game.
Jim, I think I know your opinion on it from previous discussions, previous instances.
Well, let's get a couple of things straight for a start. In cricket has never been a gentleman's or a gentlewoman's game, right? From the time that it became fashionable as a sport, because people gambled on it. From the time W.G. Grace put the bails back on after he was given out. I mean, we've always had something unscrupulous around. But for me, it's a very bad look. And I would like to see the warning rather than the bowler do what was done the other day. Mind you, Josh Butler, done by Ashwin some time ago, he was miles out of his crease. It just seemed to me in this case, okay, she'd walked out of her grounder a little casually perhaps, but there was a complete intent from the bowler to do what she was going to do as she came in. That's what I don't like about it. If someone's traipsing off into the distance, either knock the bails off, or at least in the spirit of the game, if that still exists, give them a warning and say, look out. So, look, it's a bad look. I understand it's within the laws and it's no longer considered unfair plays, in inverted commas. But is this the way to play the game, particularly when it's in the crunch? But the one thing it must do is make people at the non-strikers end realise that they're not allowed, for fear of losing their wicket, to leave their crease until the ball has been dispatched. So maybe more batters will be watching the bowler's arm rather than just cruising off in expectation.
I tell you what, though, one thing about that match between England and India at Lord's was that the incident at the end completely overshadowed the retirement of India's legendary fast bowler Jhulan Goswami. So let's give a good bit of time now to paying tribute to her, because she was playing her last game in international cricket after a career that started back in 2002. She retired at the age of 39 as the world's leading wicket taker in women's one-day internationals, 255 in her 204 matches. Charu, how will she be remembered?
Well, in a class of one, because she's been there for a very long time. Just as Mithali, I suppose their careers intersected for many decades, and the leader for a lot of other Indians to take up the concept or the art of medium pace bowling. Because just like in the men's arena, going back to perhaps the late 70s, when India were till that point of time very shy of medium pacers or fast bowlers, and sometimes in test matches they used to bowl 2 or 4 overs and that's it, and the spin used to take over. But after Kapil and quite a few others, there was, medium pacers are coming out of every street now in India. And I think Jhulan will take that credit for ensuring that there are many young Indian women who now feel and believe that they can be fast bowlers or medium pacers as well. And we see that happening now. I mean, India have a fair number of go-to fast bowlers, and I have no doubt in my mind that they will thank Jhulan for leading the way, for showing the way. She, of course, was a little exceptional because she's a lot taller than most other average Indian girls, and she used that to very good advantage. I don't think we're still anywhere close in terms of speed as the bowlers of some of the leading women cricket nations, but there's this clamor now, there's this awareness that we too can be medium pacers who are effective and who are dependable.
One final thought before we say goodbye on the run out at the non-strikers end, because it did make me look back actually at some previous incidences, and it's only happened 4 times in men's test matches, not in my lifetime. The last one in a test was in 1979, but in women's T20, and we talked about this on Stumps at the time. Do you remember the Cameroon bowler who affected 4 run-outs like that in the space of 2 overs in a World Cup qualifier against Uganda last year? That was Meva Duma.
Whoa.
Of course, there was Jos Buttler in the IPL and against Sri Lanka as well. But yeah, it just made me think of Meva Duma and the conversation that she created when she did that just last year. So you'll be able to find that if you listen back on Stumped. We had a chat about that too. Now, that was all we've got time for on Stumped this week. So I'll say thank you to Jim Maxwell and Charu Sharma, and of course to you for listening. And we'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.